In this video, we're going to run through the grid or table settings. So on your company's page, simply click on the component to open up the menu, and on the left-hand side, go into settings. So I'm going to run through the different options you have here, starting at the top. So Knack automatically enables the keyword search, which is this search by keyword box on the preview here, which is this keyword search here. So if I typed in new, it's going to do a wildcard search looking across all columns to find the word new. So it finds new here, and it finds the word new in these records as well. So you can toggle that on and off, and that appears and disappears in the live preview. You can also control which fields it searches, whether it's just searching the fields that are in this view, so the name, address and website, or whether it actually would show or search all fields in your table. Now, our table only has 3 fields, but if you had lots more fields, you could get it to search. The only thing to be aware of is that the user could search for something and it wouldn't actually be displaying it, because it would find a matching word in a field that wasn't being displayed on your table. So I tend to leave it just fields that are being used by this view. Record exporting, when you click the box there, you get a little link to be able to export this out, so you can export your data out of the application. Inline editing enables you to be able to edit the records inline, very similar to a spreadsheet. So if I just save that, back to the live app and do a refresh, you can now see I've got the export link, which enables you to export your data out, and you'll also then have the ability to edit inline, so you can click and edit straight into the cells here. So this is a nice way for doing quick data entry. I generally prefer using the edit method that we've already set up, but you can control which columns you allow the user to edit. So if you didn't want them to edit the company name here, you can simply click on the column and then tick the box that says allow inline editing and change it to no, and then address and website will still be editable, but the company name won't be. I'm just going to cancel that and go back to my settings. So that's inline editing. You can also hide empty columns. So if a column doesn't have any values, then you can have it so it automatically hides the column in the view. The empty grid text, this simply displays a message. So if there's no information in the table, it just says no data, and you can obviously change this label to display that no companies. The column summaries, if you have any values in this column, you can add a column summary to either sum, do the average, minimum or maximum of those values. So very much like putting a total on a column in a spreadsheet. The pagination section, this enables you to control how many records are displayed on your table. Its default is to display 25 records at a time, and you can take it from 10 through to a maximum of 100. So it's worth just mentioning that if you set this to 100, each time the page loads, Knack is going to pull through 100 rows of data. So depending on how complex or how much data there is in your table, it can affect the performance if you're navigating to and from this page a lot. It's generally not too bad with 100, but that's why Knack limit this to 100. You can go up to 1000 in the live app view. So if I tick the box here that said let the user change the amount and save that. So back to the live app, do a refresh, and now you can see that I have pagination controls here, and I can select as an end user up to 1000 per page. But in the builder, the maximum you can set it to is 100. This is really to reduce the amount of load on the servers by pulling through 1000 records every time a page is navigated to. So a user can override this if they really need to see 1000 records on a page, but it will take some time to load. Back into the settings, I tend to leave the pagination set around 25, 50. You can do 100, there's no real issue, and you can obviously let the user change it. You can also repeat the pagination controls below the view. So if I save that, if you're showing a fairly long table, you can also repeat the pagination at the bottom of the page. If there's more than one page, you also get a little box here that says page 1 of however many, and you can use that to navigate to additional pages. In the filter section, you can either not allow filters to be added, or you can allow for custom filters. And if I just remove this one, so if I just save this, the custom filter is this filter button here, which in the live app is this filter button here. So you can give access to any of the fields and people can create their own filters. So a company name contains or doesn't contain. So if I said contains the word new and submit, I only get new code. If I change this to that the address contains new, I now get 3 records which all have New York, and I can simply click on this to remove that filter, and that resets my list to 6 records. In the filters, you can also set a default filter. So if I wanted, I could have a where a company contains or address contains. So if I said the address contains New York, this is going to add a filter to the table automatically. So I'm just going to save this. You can now see when the page loads, it automatically has a filter where the address contains New York, and I can remove that and the page will reset. But if I come back to the page, if I refresh this page, when I navigate away and then return, the filter is reapplied. So there are use cases where that may be useful. I don't tend to use that very often. Moreover, I may want to already pre-filter this table so it's only showing certain records, and I would do that in the data source, which I'll show you in a moment. So moving on with the filter options, you can either not allow records to be filtered at all, so no filtering. You can allow for custom filters, and you have the option again to just use the fields that are on this view or all fields in the table. I tend to just do fields that are in this view. The default filters we just mentioned, so I'm just going to remove that. And the other option is to use a custom filter. Now in this particular example, it doesn't really work very well, but I do use custom filters a lot. So if I said it contains New York, and I just do another one here and I say the address contains London, and I can have that link text is the label. So if I type London here, you'll see that I now have 2 buttons, one that says New York and one that says London. And that's link 1. So link 1, where the address contains New York, have a label that says New York, which is this. And link 2, where the address contains London, have link text that says London, which is this label here. So I'm just going to save this. Now, so this isn't a particularly a good use case. I do tend to use the custom filters a lot though, to set up filters for users so they don't have to add anything. So I can just click New York here and I get my New York ones, and I can click on London and then I just get my London ones. Now in this case I can only actually show New York or London, and you can see the pagination is repeated below here as well. So I'm just going to go into the settings and I'm just going to turn off the pagination. I'm also just going to add another link. I'm going to change this first link where to say the address is not blank. So in other words, it's got something in it. I'm going to say that's all. So I've now got 3 links, all New York and London. Save that. So when Knack loads a page, it automatically defaults to the first custom link. So it's now showing my 6 records, and I can say show me New York and show me London and show me all. So this is a nice easy way to be able to filter your records, but you can't unfortunately have both. You can't have the custom filters and also the ability for the user to add their own filters. So you either use a filter menu or you allow users to add their own custom filters by clicking on this filter button. So moving down to the title and description, the title of this table is called companies, which is showing up here, so you can change that. And you can also add a description to this table, which will be underneath. So you can see I've just got some text underneath here if you want to give a description. The last section is the grid design override, and you can click on the toggle here and override the global settings on this particular grid. So in the global settings, we have this set with borders, alternate back color, and small spacing or cozy line spacing. But if you wanted to change it specifically on this one table, you could increase, say, the row spacing and then just have this slightly different to the custom. So it's just an override. So I'm just going to turn that off. And before I finish this, I'm just going to go back and show you the source. This was we was talking about filters. As you can see here, this grid displays company records, but you could also, if I just remove this one because it would look like this, it displays all company records, but you could add a filter here where the address contains New York. So if I save that, even though there aren't any filters on this table, I can put a data source filter. You may remember on the last one we had a filter here that said it contains New York. but this is now filtered at the data source. So from an end user's point of view, it doesn't look like there's any filter applied because it's filtered at source. So it's now only showing records connected to New York. Now that's different. So if I go back into the source, if I remove that and save it, that's going to reinstate all my records. That's different to the settings. So if I go into the settings from the source to the settings, here what we did before is we put added a filter, default filter, where the address contains New York. And you can see here it's put this filter on the table, and then in the live app it's put in the filter here at the top saying the address contains New York. But this just means it gives the user the ability to be able to remove that filter and then show all records. Whereas if you apply the filter at the data source, the user doesn't get the ability to remove that filter. So that's a really good way of controlling which records you see on a page. In the next video, we're going to be adding some additional fields to this table and building out the views further.